super low. Damn it. Okay, so if you're just getting here, all kinds of audio problems, it's probably not worth your time. But if you want to gamble, you can wait and see if I can figure this out. Because I have to figure this out. I'm so sick of this. I've lost the entire weekend trying to set this up, and I missed the show Monday too for the same kind of reasons. Open sound settings. I have speaker SSL2 chosen as my sound setting. I bet you this is it, you fucking asshole Windows. Fuck you, Windows. That's what the problem is. Let me see if this is it. We're going to go in here. We're going to hit settings. We're going to hit audio. Desktop audio will always be this. Microphone auxiliary audio will always be this. Hit apply. And okay, your level is a little hotter. Your level is a little... Thanks for hanging in with me, Annette. I am really sorry about this. Do you have cicadas? No, I do not have cicadas. Bro, I've been listening so much lo-fi music over the years. Just go... I can't do that, PJR. Because I really just need to fix the audio, that's all. So I know this is a problem. But I just want to get it right. So, and I appreciate you hanging with me. All of you guys, I appreciate you hanging with me. And PJR, thanks, guys. Yee, you got it. Audio 5 times 5. Fantastic. Now, you got it, James. Okay, so now I gotta, whenever I reboot, I have to turn on and off every single camera I have and resync the chat, tell DLive to stop running in the background. Tell the Canon EOS M50 tool that we are not wanting you to do anything like this. Then tell Windows I do not want to upload anything from the camera. And I will click never for this device for the 1000th time. And now we've got an intro going, and you should still hear my voice. Don't touch anything. That's the problem, man, is I have to shut down at night. And I've tried leaving the computer on all night, just so you know. I've tried, but this fucking computer has these LED lights which give you a rainbow coloring all night long. And if I cover it with a sheet, it will overheat it. DLive was also affected. We're not going to abort the show. We're gonna try and have it, even though a lot of people have said, fuck this guy, why would I sit around and hang out? Oh my goodness. Oh my goody goodness. What is James doing today? It's a live show. This is what happens. Yeah, I could pull the LED lights out right now. I could, but then I'd still be leaving my computer on all night, which I just don't want to do. It makes a lot of noise. I like it quiet at night. I turn off my refrigerator sometimes at night. I know now you probably think I'm weird, but I do. I turn off my refrigerator sometimes at night. I'd turn it off every night if it was easier. This is for your authenticity, James. Cycling is always better than flatlining. Thank you, Graham. I appreciate that, man. I hope you're still there. It's okay. We'll sort it out. We'll still be here with our winners. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, I was a little bit pissy there. I'm just... So many calories goes into this. I'm just talking about the... just the technical stuff, so... I'm happy to do the calories on the research and stuff. At least you're not driving into a corporate wage slave job right now. Okay, so I'm still getting everything set here, just so you know. You hurt my last feeling, man. I did. Sorry, Dorn. I definitely was rude to someone. I didn't think I was rude to you. Maybe you're talking to someone else. I was already at that corp, man. Maybe you need to restart it when you boot your computer up. I just started shutting it off. It's not the same as restart due to fast startup settings. It's a very good point, Hydromuto 007. It's a very good point, my friend. Boot your computer up, then just... Okay, good, Dorn. Because I get pissed, and then I show it. We'll do it live! What's he looking? The camera doesn't work. This is why it was already hard enough. I already did this once. I already did this. I'm going to do this again. Wait, maybe that was the last restart when I did this. We'll see. This might come back on if I hit quit. Let's go. Sounds like sound, and I am. Well, if it quit there. And nope, that's not going to work either. That's funny. Okay, that one works. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be talking to you on my side camera today because I can't even get my main camera to work anymore. We'll get that all situated for you. There we go. What a day. Wow. Good morning. Good morning. This is like Samson shaving his beard and everything falls apart. Man, I wish I could get this main camera to work. That would be a lot easier. I'm going to turn that off and turn it back on again. See, I know that trick too. Let's just see if we can get that main camera working, because it'd be a lot easier to focus if I could just look straight ahead of the screen. Quit. Is that going to come on? Is that going to come on? Deactivate. Activate. Sounds great. There we are. Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, I should say. Good brunching. Good. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate that. The pressure's probably good too. Pressure's probably good too. Glad to have you guys here. Sorry I missed the show Monday. Had some sound problems. Thought I worked it out. Turned out I didn't. Don't know what the problem was, Debbie. Actually, that's not true. When I rebooted, Windows said, hey, you know this third webcam, this other webcam you have over here? It turns out that has a mic in it, and I'm going to set your entire settings to use that mic instead. And I'm not going to tell you. That's what happened. Just like last week, sometimes when you reboot, Windows just says, you know what, all of your volume from all your different applications, I'm just going to mute those. But I'm going to show you on your main volume that your volume's good. I'm going to show you that. But all your subsystem volume, we're turning all those off too. That's basically what's been happening. So I'm learning. This is moving from Mac back to PC. If some of you guys are curious as to why that's happening, this is what happens when you move back. If you're asking me why I moved back, it's because of Unreal Engine and the fact that I've been animating this movie from the screenplay that I wrote, The Hidden Hand. And in order to do that, I knew I was going to have to move to Windows to get some of Unreal Engine's really kick-ass fucking lighting. Holy shit. Amazing stuff in there. So yeah, that's, you're just watching me learn how to be back on a PC again. Oh, that's wrong way. There we go. I wanted to talk about abortion today. I want to talk about Abortion Monday. I really wanted to talk about this Monday. It was really on the right time. But I want to talk about it today because there's a Pied Piper at work inside abortion, and it's been running since before the government, so it's not really fair to blame this on the government. It's part of why you were here. Part of why you were here in this world. None of us really sit around and talk about why the fuck are we here? What's going on? What's this all about? All this stuff. We don't really talk about that. We just wander on with our lives, aimlessly kind of going through the motions and doing what we can. But we don't actually talk about why we're here. But if you look at why we're here, I'm going to need someone who has my number. Antonio, if you happen to still be here, you could check this out for me. But is Rockfin okay? Can someone tell me if Rockfin's okay? Because sometimes it takes a while for a chat to come in. I don't know if because I've had to restart this stream 6 times, if maybe Rockfin is broken and I need to do something. So if someone doesn't mind, if you could let me know that Rockfin is good. Not only is it good, but if you could let me know that yeah, it is running. And I'd love to get that message from you either on a text or on chat before I actually start talking about this topic, because the rock fees are really the ones that are keeping the lights on here, and I really want to make sure that they are set. So we're just going to wait just a second to know if we were actually on Rockfin, because it could actually be that Rockfin is not working. No Rockfin since James. Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to just come in here real quick. This should actually be pretty fast. I'm going to go into content management. I'm going to hit edit. And we're going to see if it's going to give me a go live option. Thank you for your patience here. Thank you. Go live. Now, if you guys don't mind confirming, I'm pretty sure Rockfin is good to go. And we will continue on. Yeah. Nice. We good, the sweet audio. Good. And it looks like Rockfin's set too. So thank you so much. It only took us 44 minutes. It only took us 44 minutes to start a show, but here we are. We are in that show. And that show, abortion comes with flowers. It should. We send flowers after a miscarriage. We send nothing after an abortion. Only one of these actions is congruent with our empathy. The other is a social pressure that we put on each other where we've tried to normalize something that really needs flowers. We're normalizing something that really needs flowers. It's a somatic trauma, and we're pretending like it's a civil right. We're pretending that a somatic trauma is a civil right. And it's interesting to figure out why that happens. It's interesting to really look at exactly why. Now, if I hit this button, it should... Okay, no, it doesn't. Hang on a second. This will just take a second. Another reason why I don't like to restart is because every time I restart, I have to go in and tell OBS where my slideshow is, where everything else is, and it just takes a while to have to reboot all that stuff. I'd like you to imagine that the very first time someone had an abortion, it was sadistic, satanic, disgusting, shocking, and hard. It was the very first one. And that before anyone even heard this idea that we can actually grab this living creature and remove it like a toenail, that the very first time that happens, it was at the pinnacle of shocking, disturbing, sadistic, satanic, mutilational, homicidal, murderous, all that. But the second abortion wasn't quite as intense as the first. It wasn't. There was a tuning of your empathy sonar. It wasn't quite as satanic. It was just really, really disturbing. That was the second abortion. The third abortion was chilling. It wasn't sadistic. It was chilling. It made you feel cold, but it wasn't sadistic. And the fourth abortion just got a little bit more easier, got a little bit more normalized, right? The fifth abortion was just as bad as the fourth, but the fourth was not nearly as bad as the first, right? Just wasn't quite as bad. The sixth abortion had overtones of sadisticness, but it still wasn't quite as shocking, even as abortion number 2, which is no near as shocking as abortion number 1. Abortion number 10, it's getting easier. And finally, after about abortion number 20, it turns into a procedure. Now abortion is a procedure. Exact same act, exact same effects, exact same psychology, but now it's a procedure. It's a procedure. And that's abortion number 20, right? Abortion number 44, it's not a procedure anymore. It's a reproductive service. It's just a reproductive service. It's no different than getting a pap smear. Why? Because there's already been 32 abortions. There have already been 36 abortions. It's not that big of a deal. The novelty of salaciousness has worn off. And it's just not quite so sadistic anymore because it's been normalized through frequency, right? The 168th abortion,
It's no longer a procedure, it's now a constitutional right. So we went from sadistic, horrifying, up to constitutional right, and all it took was repetition. That's all it took. The only thing that changed was that it happened more than once. And I've said this before, I've said this in my books. The very first person that ran to Marathon, the city of Marathon, believe it or not, the concept of marathon was invented by a runner, Philippides or something, who ran 26 miles in one day. It actually wasn't 26, but that's what we call a mile now, roughly. But that he ran this far in one day to deliver the news to his city, and the people, and the rumor is he died when he arrived, and the people were so grateful for his news because he had brought it to them first. Philippides was not the only person delivering that message, that when you're sending important correspondence, you would not actually only have one runner. You might actually have more than one. Why? Because it's just that important. And the second person that ran and arrived in Marathon, he was maybe 7 minutes behind Philippides, and no one gave a shit about his news. His news meant nothing. It wasn't that big of a deal. And he might have died too, but no one really cared. Didn't really matter because it was worthless. Why? Because he was not bringing something new. He was not introducing something as a novelty. This is the magic of news, right? Northeast, west, south, this is the magic of news. That we don't actually value news. We don't actually value truth. What we value is novelty. And just as we value novelty, so too are we disgusted by novelty. And that all those things are normalized through repetition. And that if you can do something horrible 6 times in a row, it's not going to be horrible. It's not. It's going to be normalized. If you keep doing it, it's going to become mythology. Right? Before mythology, it'll become bureaucracy. If you keep doing it, it'll just become bureaucracy. After bureaucracy, it will become religio. We talked about this word. Cicero invented the word religion. And religio is really the word that meant the unspoken rules that we have in society that all of us adhere to, but none of us have actually written down. That was the birth of the word religion came from that. The religio of the people, the populace. And that the novelty, when it's weared off, it instantly becomes religio. Instantly becomes standardized as just, it's just what we do. And the religio erupts into the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy erupts into an institution. The institution systemically pushes it into the molecules of their bronze statues, and it eventually seats itself into the archetypal library of mythology. It becomes normalized. It becomes completely normalized, and this becomes the new norm. And we've gone from sadistic, disgusting, vengeful, evil, bad, horrible, into, it's the way we do things. It's the systemic library of mythology, James. It's just built into our core. And the only way that we get there, the only way we get there is through frequency. It's the only way. The same is true, positive for news and negative for action. It's the exact same procedure. The novelty is the salaciousness. When the novelty goes, the salaciousness drops. When the salaciousness drops, the only thing left to do is to normalize what used to be salacious. And that's what's happening now. That's what this thing's really all about. Because the truth is that we normalize self-mutilation by watching others treat themselves worse than we treat ourselves. That you and I get permission to treat ourselves horribly simply by watching our neighbors. Why? Because that same frequency sets in. And the same normalcy, the same canonization we canonize our brutality and place them inside of our laws and say, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. It's a really powerful force, this repetition is. That's why when you learn something, you're told to repeat it. Repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And so we do. And we utilize this technique to destroy ourselves even more and feel good the whole time. Makes us feel better. Why? Because we always can compare it to someone else and say, well, I didn't do that to myself. I didn't treat myself that way. Sure, I treated myself almost as bad, but I didn't treat myself totally that bad, which means I'm not that bad, which means I could treat myself even worse and just come up to that line and still be okay. But James, why would someone treat themselves worse? And this really breaks down into the prana economy of life itself. That we profiteer off our victimhood, we profiteer off of our abuse. That the abuse that your father gave you is actually a tool you can use to epigenetically abuse your children too, and we see this. It's built in, and all of this is built in through the repetition, through the act of repeating the same thing that we saw before. Now you have two sides running what we're calling the country, just two. And both sides want government in charge of morality. The Republicans insist that government gets to decide what is moral. And Democrats are insisting government gets to decide what is moral. And both sides are pushing you into the same place, exact same place. That place is that government is in charge of your morality. And that, my friends, has done more to erode and destroy our world than anything else. Anything else. This idea that both of us are fighting for secretly the same thing. And you could be completely on opposite sides of the abortion debate. But when you look at your prana economy underneath, both sides are pushing that government is the one that gets to decide what's right and what's wrong. And this brings up a really, really interesting ethical question. I'm not here to give you ethical answers. I am here to provide you with some interesting framework and tools so that you can figure out exactly where your ethics are, exactly where they lie. And that the truth of the matter is that you possess a fundamental right to self-mutilation. That self-mutilation is built into the code, not only of this world, but even of politics, of science, of art, of psychology, of family, of sociology. Every single aspect is reminding you that you have a right to self-mutilation. And this right to self-mutilation is exactly the same medicine that you use for growth. It's the exact same trick. Which is why we need this right. We need the right to self-mutilate. We have to have that right. If we lost that right to self-mutilate, we would never learn the gift of Baal that comes with self-mutilation. It would never happen. And this will be creepy. This will be creepy if you're new to this kind of thinking. If you're new to my work, this might be creepy. But it's so important. It's so important. Not only is it important, it would be impossible to stop. That there's not one person in the world right now that is exercising their right to self-mutilate. And that not only is that right important, you are eroding your neighbor's rights by insisting that no one has the right to mutilate themselves. That you are removing the sovereignty crown from that person, and you're saying you You don't know what you're doing. You are not qualified. And because you're not qualified, we need government in charge of your morality. That government gets to decide what is self-mutilation and what is not self-mutilation. And government actually enjoys self-mutilation. Government actually enjoys breeding this inside of you while also using the exact same infrastructure to erode and take away more of your freedom. And the reason why that works is not because government's clever, it's because people want government to be in charge of their morality. And if you doubt me, I need you to look at the 250 million voters that turn out every 4 years. And then regardless of what you put on the screen, of how many people lie, they still insist that government must be in charge of my morality. So why? Why would someone want government in charge of their morality? Well, this answer is actually pretty simple. The answer is because morality's hard. Morality's hard as fuck. You need calories to be moral. And every moral act that you accomplish in life will only be after calories were spent. After you chose to spend a certain number of calories to do that, only then will you understand how important that is. That where this morality comes from, and even more importantly, why so many people miss it. Morality is hard. Now, I'd like you to expand this rule. I'd like you to expand this concept, I should say. That not only do you have the right to self-mutilation, here comes a biggie, but you have the right to epigenetic self-mutilation. That you have the right to epigenetically injure yourself. What does that mean? You have the right to injure your grandkids. You have the right to injure your kids, your children. You have built into your code is this sovereign right. And I know that you might say, well, that's not true, and government will step in and do all these other things. But even government stepping in is self-mutilation. Even agreeing that government should be the ones that come in to save the children from what we do, that is, in fact, a form of self-mutilation too. Why? Because you are eroding and mutilating your sovereignty by insisting that you require a fucking government to come in and tell you what to do and tell you what's right. That you and your children are the direct result of epigenetic self-mutilation from your grandparents. Now, there is also epigenetic wisdom. And just like the government does not own your epigenetic wisdom, so too does the government not own your self-mutilation. And just as government is not in charge of giving you epigenetic wisdom, so too is government not in charge of saving you from epigenetic self-mutilation. And this changes the world dramatically, entirely. Because you are now looking at a completely different world under this view. But that world has been here the whole time, my friends. And that you can wear a mask for 2 years and drink yourself into a bottle because you're sad. And that sadness and that cuckery and that cowardice and that gullibility will be blended into your genes and passed down to your children, just as anything else. Alcoholism is epigenetically self-mutilating. Epigenetically meaning you're not just mutilating yourself when you drink, you're mutilating your entire totem, your entire family line. So how come you're allowed to do that, but you can't have an abortion? Why is that okay? Well, because it's a separate life, James. The baby's a separate life. It's its own life. And I think that's a very limited, self-mutilating thought, to consider that the child is its own life when a child is not its own life. A child is an extension of the field of the mother until that child claims its adulthood. And because it's an extension of the mother, parents have the right to epigenetically self-mutilate by harming their own children. And the thoughts that you have that make you want to say, someone should do something, or James, that's wrong, government can step in, you are mutilating that person too. You were looking at their entire epigenetic line, you're saying, you guys are not qualified. And natural law itself gives them that qualification. You have the right to corrupt your children. You have the right to send and elicit and subscribe and enter your children into human trafficking. And all you have to do is put them on a yellow shipping container. And that yellow shipping container is so convenient that it literally drives by your house. And you have the right to muzzle your kids and throw them into that yellow shipping container and send them on their way. And all the warped ideas that they get in their mind is you mutilating yourself. We have the right to kill, says Ivan. You have the power to kill, says James. You have the power to kill. And if you want to ask me, Ivan, well, who has more authority to kill their child, a parent or the government? And I'm going to tell you, a parent. And I'm going to tell you that that is a form of self-mutilation. And I'm going to tell you that it's very, very important in this world. And you may come back and say, well, that's just sadistic, and now all of us will perish in this horrible, horrible world. And that will only happen because we have a world that's full of systemic politeness, where no one ever, ever, ever looks at someone else with shame and says, why are you mutilating yourself in my presence, you sick fuck? We don't say that here. None of us call each other out for self-mutilation because we believe that politeness is more important than violence. And we will purposely pick these tiny, tiny fringe issues. You're about to see what I mean by tiny in a second. Like abortion, to override the sickening, disgusting things that we do to each other by normalizing our self-mutilation in public. And just as I told you that the 100th abortion becomes a procedure, so too does the 100th self-mutilation become just life. That's just what we do. And James, you need to calm down, dude. It's none of these things, but it is. It's exactly these things. It could not be more accurate as to what's really happening on the field. And while your kids are being shoved into this yellow shipping container, you will take their mutilation and you will take it out to the streets and you will fucking profit from it because you will post on Instagram how horrible the world is. And how horrible it is what's being taught in school. And how horrible it is that there's things on abortion. You're going to tell the world how horrible it is while you're doing the exact same thing. And why? Because frequency makes it moral for you. And you begin to feel better about how awful you treat yourself because all you have to do is look out the window and watch someone else treat them worse. My kid isn't being tortured even though he's wearing a muzzle inside a yellow shipping container while everyone tells him how important it is that he performs sodomy every month. That's not bad because there's another kid probably somewhere who's getting an abortion. That child's been aborted. So clearly I have the moral high ground here. And that's really what society is. And because society is that way, it's why we end up with two sides. That's why there's 250 million people wandering around going, I will treat my kids like shit as long as it's not quite as shitty as the Joneses are treating them children. And I will take that information and I will feel good. I will feel good. Uncanny, maybe you should listen to the whole presentation, buddy. Just a thought. This self-mutilation is fundamental because the self-mutilation is how we prune ourselves. We perform horrible acts on ourselves until we stop. That's what makes us stop. And we would stop sooner if we could witness each other. But we can't witness each other because we live in a society where we believe that politeness is the key, where we believe that normalcy holds the society together. But the truth is that we have a full, fundamental access and rights to corrupt our family tree. And we get to say and do whatever we want while we're doing it. It doesn't matter. And one of the more important reasons why this is crucial has a lot to do, believe it or not, with self-harm. When you have evacuated yourself from yourself, when you have disassociated from yourself so much, you no longer see yourself as worthy. And when you're living in a world that pedestalizes unworthiness, which is what we do, it becomes no longer effective for you to mutilate yourself to a point to where you're traumatically decided now it's time to move on. That I must do something different. I have to change because I've mutilated the shit out of my fingernails, for example. And I have to stop. And it's only through the witnessing of the mutilation that you finally have the strength to even notice what's happening. But if you were evacuated, if you were disassociated from ourselves, you would need to continue the pain so deeply that you are watching you do this to your own child. And only through that witness of seeing you do this to someone else is your genes set up for a lesson that will finally make this shit stop. And that the child is sacrificing himself for the epigenetic totem pole to reclaim its power and to regroup from the witnessing of the mutilation. The child is fundamentally there as a huge, huge, huge wrench in the gears of normalcy. And it will take many times for this lesson to be learned. It will take a circumcision. You will mutilate your child's genitals and you'll say that's fine, but abortion's no. You will stick 72 pieces of metal intramuscularly and inject tiny pieces of mercury, thimerosal, or whatever the fuck else they want into your body until you finally say, this is wrong. And the entire time while you're doing it, you will look at abortion and you will say, hey, I'm just vaccinating my kids. I'm not aborting them. But you are. You're epigenetically mutilating yourself and you're using their body as an extension because you do not care enough about yourself anymore to feel that pain. It requires the witness of someone else to happen. The trauma that abortion brings is crucial in this world. Women go through some of the most fucked up evil trauma you can imagine from day one, whether it be being a mother, whether it be the concept of childbirth itself. The entire process is meant to unleash vitriol. When I started this stream, I think it was this time, I explained to you that most of us are not asking why we're here, that most of us are not actually looking at what this world is doing and how it's slowly unwinding on ourselves. And the ability to witness our self-mutilation in the light of vitriol is absolutely crucial for the blooming of consciousness. Absolutely crucial for that to happen. And if it doesn't happen, there will be no growth. There will be none. That we need to push ourselves so far over the edge that we kill our own children to learn these lessons. And the truth is always, always in the room. Science claims over and over and over and over and over again that certain chemicals inserted into your body do not change your DNA. But chronic alcoholism changes your DNA. Trauma changes your DNA. Ignorance changes your DNA. Nutrition changes your DNA. The environment changes your DNA. The amount of sleep you get changes your DNA. If all of these things change your DNA, why would an intramuscular chemical injected into yourself not? Right? Why? And the answer, I think, really does come down to this normalcy of mutilation, that we have decided what kinds of mutilation are okay and what kinds of mutilation are not. And we've demanded the whole time that these people need to decide what's right. Anything that passes the blood-brain barrier will change your DNA. Free Press 666. Anything that does not pass the blood-brain barrier, will also change your DNA. Just an FYI. Alcohol does not actually enter into the blood-brain barrier. Actually, maybe it does. I don't know. I need to check that out. But there are things that you can do to yourself that do not involve the blood-brain barrier, and they change your DNA. Do you know why? Because life changes your DNA. Your life does. Which means that the decisions you make change your DNA. Every one of them. Except for COVID-19. It's the one that doesn't. Or so science claims. But your cellular physiology is the massive transcription of RNA inside every cell, and every moment that that copying algorithm is run, every single time, that changes your DNA. And how focused and how associated you are in your body is exactly congruent to how many bad copies your DNA makes. That's what determines it. How present are you is a direct reflection of how present your mRNA copying scheme is, which is why when you drink, you epigenetically alter your DNA. I would say it's beyond pleasure, Seamus. Good to see you, buddy. I would say that it actually comes down to presence. What I mean by that is that pain can be a very present generating field. Probably more so than pleasure. And that what really determines the epigenetic trauma that you experience in pain is not pain. It is your association with that pain. It is your presence inside your body as that pain is around you. And that pain is this tuning EMF that's wanting to know if you're done. What does that mean? It's wanting to know, can this person remain present inside them, their cellular posture, despite the pain that's all around them? This would really be the only way that you could test whether something was stainless. You would expose it to corruption and either watch it survive or watch it die. And the ones that survive, are corruption proof. So I think that pain is more of a healing signal. I think that vitriol is probably one of the most important tools of growth that we have, which is why I don't want to say that pain itself is epigenetically disassociating us or causing us damage. I would think that your bravery and authenticity and presence in that pain could actually go exactly the opposite way. And that when you complete a triumph, I could not do this now, but a few years ago, I could run to the top of Grandfather Mountain, a 5-mile grueling run in a race called the Bear that's happening this weekend, which is why I'm talking about it. And that by running that race, I feel epigenetically reclaimed, that I'm grabbing my great grandfather's failures and I'm saying, dude, I got you. I'm going to run up this famous ancient mountain. It's 5 miles straight up, and I will survive, and I will find the champion on top, and that pain will be used the entire time for me to prove how present I can be inside that pain. And that is healing your epigenetic issues as much as it's charging your epigenetic wisdom, which means that you are not mutilating your child while you're doing that. You are helping that child, even the child that hasn't been born yet, that you're doing those things to them. So I would argue to you that we are performing an abortion the moment we disassociate when we're 5. That when the woman disassociates from her pain as she's growing up young, as a young woman, that she is epigenetically mutilating her child that's to come. Same way with men. But we've normalized what's okay and what's not. We've normalized the whole thing. And the truth is always, always in the room. And that you and I have these visions of Moloch and people feeding their babies to Moloch. And Moloch was a bronze figure whose chest opened and inside was the burning hot fire, and that burning hot fire, the child was placed on its hands. The hands were swung up, and the child was falling into the fire. And you and I have this mythology. We have these ideas. Mythologies can be true, by the way, but you have this mythology in your head. And one of the reasons why you have the mythology in your head is because a long time ago, epigenetically, a bunch of us got together and we're doing this, and we decided, hey, if we remember this, if we systemically build this in, we will consider ourselves to be great parents for thousands of years, no matter how shitty we treat each other. Because you know what? We never threw each other into a fucking bronze incinerator shaped like a bull. We never did that, which means we must be good parents. But the truth is always in the room. And you were looking at an incinerator. You're looking at the modern bull. But we tell ourselves that we don't do this anymore when this is exactly what we do today. We haven't changed at all. We take unwanted children and we place them into this fire, this red hot fire with bronze, with chrome, with stainless steel parts. And we have the exact same techniques. We have an even hotter temperature. But we allow ourselves to miss this because it doesn't look like a bull. Because it doesn't look like a bull. But the truth is always in the room, isn't it? Even when we don't see it. The truth is always, always in the room. Government doesn't care about you. And every time you insist it does, you are mutilating your children. You are mutilating your future because you're normalizing all these lies. And when you look at these statistics of abortion, that when Roe versus Wade was even decided in 1972, the number of deaths in the United States from legal abortion was 24, and from illegal abortions was 39. And that just like in Prohibition, how do you get people to invent the cocktail? You declare alcohol illegal, and that you have this same kind of eugenics program boost itself up by bringing this debate, quote, quote, debate to the world stage. And that debate is not over whether or not it's wrong to abort a baby. That was not the debate. The debate has always been whether or not government is in charge of telling you what's moral. That's been. And the debate is both sides agree that government is in charge of you being moral. The debate is over what color morality is pointed at. From what fingers different parts of this is coming. And these are all people that send their children in a shipping container, muzzled, that mutilate their children at birth, the same people making these decisions that mutilate their children at birth, are telling you how immoral you are for having an abortion. And when you look at the statistics, everyone talks about the outliers, right? And the outliers are so small. 0.001% pregnancies resulted from incest. 0.065% where a woman's life was in danger. 0.085% the woman was raped. 0.288% the woman's physical health was threatened. None of these even come up to a 1%, with the exception of 6.268% of these people say they aborted it for social or economic reasons. But we insist, the red and the blue insist, that this is about whether or not a woman was raped or whether or not it was about incest. And this has nothing to do with anything. And in 1972, this was dealing with 39 abortions across the entire nation. 39 of them. It has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with anything else except for telling you the government cares about you, and they don't. Government doesn't care about you. And you are epigenetically abusing your child by pretending that it does. June 24th. Representative Lauren Bobart tweeted, "Hey, Capitol Police, why are there 20 pallets of bricks 1 block from the House office building?" Right before the Roe versus Wade decision. Another one, why was there the most nationally televised Supreme Court, well, maybe Clarence Thomas was up there, but you have this Dr. Ford story with, what was the justice name? Can't remember his name, but you had this, Dr. Ford was allegedly raped by this Kavanaugh. And now the exact same figures are in place. And what's different? We have 20 pallets of bricks outside the House of Representatives. We built that building a long time ago. Doesn't need bricks. Doesn't need bricks right now. Because government doesn't care about your safety. Government doesn't care about your love life. And that every letter in LGBT means a non-reproductive relationship, something that does not involve a child. And the rules of abortion mean stop having children. The government doesn't care about you. The government cares about the lack of you. That's what the government cares about. The government cares about the lack of your children. And the systemic normalcy has gotten so bad that we end up celebrating the very machine that we put our kids into. And that this woman is epigenetically mutilating her boy by posing for this picture. And she's not going to notice it. He may not notice it. But eventually down the line, someone will notice. And it may take for someone to notice that this family line has to mutilate itself so bad that it loses its kids. That's probably what it would take. And the alternative, if anyone is on the alternative here of, James, this is just wrong, the alternative is government stepping into your house and saying, we're taking your kids away. But why? Because you're not qualified and you're not allowed to mutilate yourself or your children because we know what's best. And that would be the ultimate act of self-mutilation, wouldn't it? For you to mutilate your rights would be no different than you taking a razor blade and carving worthless into your kneecap. And then wandering around the streets, feeling good, feeling high, because you cut the word worthless into your knee and it made you feel better. It made you feel alive. That's what we're doing now. And every time we're insisting that the moral high ground is this and that we need to step in, all those opportunities are opportunities for you to evacuate your own power, to evacuate yourself. Government is the lack of you. And this is not a battle between good and evil, right? This is a battle between you and the lack of you, which means it has nothing to do with government. Government isn't even at the table right now. You are. You are the one at the table right now. Now, we contribute to the moral landscape by overcoming the discomfort, by overcoming the comfort of being polite, that you fix this world, that you make this world epigenetically wiser by overcoming the politeness and speaking up. And it's hard to do that. And it's even harder to do that when you're advocating for that government is not in charge of your morality, that people will fight you on that. And they will call you all the names in the book. Why? Because they need Moloch, the Planned Parenthood Moloch. They need that to make themselves feel better so that they can say, at least I didn't do that. I'm not doing that. That's what they need. Yes, energetic mutilation. Exactly, Green Mountain Girl. That's what this is. And so would be insisting that government is here to fix this, and they should fix this. That is also energetic mutilation. It's epigenetic trauma passed down so far to where you and me are now assembled around a fucked up piece of sound equipment simply so we can discuss all of the epigenetic trauma that's been passed down to us by people saying, well, government should do it. Government, this is wrong, James. Government needs to step in and do something. Someone should do something. That's epigenetic mutilation. Someone should do something. That's epigenetic mutilation. That's as easy as it sounds. Someone should do something. That's all it takes. That's it. And what if the government, who's been shaming you forever and ever and ever, starts celebrating your abortion? What would that do to you if you were already so disassociated that you had to mutilate your children? What does government do? Does government come in and say, hey, lady, we want you to have an abortion, but we also want you to know it's wrong? No. No, they want you to have an abortion and they want you to celebrate it. They want to give you a lollipop. Think about why. Because the government doesn't like you. They don't like you. And they'd rather spend an entire month spending billions of dollars to see if you will sodomize your neighbors instead of have kids. In 2015, the United States passed 115 laws. It was actually a light year. I'm telling you this because it means every 3 days, the federal government is mutilating you. Every 3 days, they are coming out with a new idea for how to mutilate you. And every 3 days, people are jumping at the chance because they see an opportunity to say, wow, I'm not nearly this horrible. I must be pretty good. I like this idea. Someone should do something. Someone should do something. And so we do. And every day that the federal government is alive is every day that a new law is about to be passed. They don't take laws away. They only add more. They only add more. And they will keep adding more until the sovereignty improves. And how does the sovereignty improve? By owning your right to self-mutilate. Now, the moment you own your right to self-mutilate is the moment that you claim the responsibility of self-mutilation. The moment you accept your right to self-mutilate is the same moment where you become accountable for your own self-mutilations. Can you see why these laws are designed this way? That by adding turning a sadistic, homicidal, mutilational ceremony into a civil right, they are eroding the very fabric of your morality. And by secreting politeness and teaching politeness all around, the woman who is so disassociated that she's done mutilating herself and now she mutilates her own body and her child, gets no social pressure from the outside world, No one is allowed to make it expensive for her because we're all too busy being polite. And you know what she needs? She doesn't need a fucking cake, right? With congratulations on your abortion. You know what she fucking needs? She needs fucking flowers. Abortion comes with flowers. And that's what she needs. That is the medicine that is required, is flowers. When someone dies, you send them flowers. When someone chops off their own arm, you send them flowers. When someone mutilates themselves, you send flowers. Why? Because you witness it, you were there, and you want them dilated. What do flowers do? They dilate you. Why do they dilate you? What's the purpose of dilating you? So you will be fucking present. And when the flowers come in your abortion room, in the room, as you're in bed and you're recovering, you will see the flowers and you will dilate and you will go, what have I done? And the answer is you epigenetically mutilated yourself and your entire family line. That's what you did. And you're not alone. That the entire world outside does this every day, and they need the government to try and pass laws to make them feel like that's actually not what they're doing. And all of this comes back to you. And some of you are not going to be able to handle this, so you're going to say, no, this is wrong. This isn't about abortion, or this isn't about this, or this. And yes, it is. It's exactly about this. Because you were put on this earth to learn to self-mutilate yourself for one purpose only. And that's to understand self-worth. And if it wasn't through self-degradation, through self-mutilation, if it wasn't through your ability to hurt others, you would never have any concept of how powerful you are as an individual, and how much responsibility it takes to be the captain of your ship. Never. You have to understand these things. And it will never come from government, because government is not your friend. Government doesn't like you. I want to remind everybody that on November 11th, 2006, 2017, 2018, and 2019, 4 Supreme Court justices told you that abortion is a law and pro-choice is built in the books, and they'd never change that. And now when you're looking at them changing that, some of you might be tempted to say, oh, well, clearly the government cares about me because now they're pro-life, but they don't care about you. Stop saying that. Stop. This is what they care about. That the pallet of bricks came with the change on abortion because that's how you run a country. This is how you convince 250 million voters who've already given up on themselves that it's okay, government will take care of you. Requires these rituals. It's how government grows. It grows in the birth of these things. And so as our friend Mephisto says, we have our gay Ramadan. We have an entire month-long ceremony dedicated to it. Being mad at abortion makes shitty parents feel better through comparison. And when you really unwrap the prawn economy, the truth of what's really happening, you really start to see what's actually going on. That why one person is for abortion and why one person are against abortion, that both those people are secretly wanting the government to take the responsibility for their immorality. And so now they can blame the government and say, well, I would be more moral, but government says this or government does this. And the two have nothing to do with each other. None at all. And this is making us stainless because we're looking at this lies, we're looking at all this dishonesty, and only some of us are figuring it out, while 250 million of us are not. And do you know what it's going to take for those 250 million to figure it out? Because right now, many of those 250 million have decided that they just organically woke up gay, and it was purely them, their own doing. and that government had nothing to do with it, that atrazine had nothing to do with it, that diet, culture, fashion, Hollywood, none of those things had any bearing. I just happened to wake up and boom, I was a homosexual. That's what people think because they have not gotten into touch with themselves. How influenced they are by their environment around them. They can't even admit that. And so even though the gay population has literally doubled every decade, I'm not being exaggeratory when I say that. Since the 40s, every generation has seen a doubling of this kind of epigenetic mutilation. Probably performed by our government, but our government is us. It is the lack of us. So the lack of us is mutilating ourselves, and the only way we can feel better is to pretend to be really, really mad about abortion. Why? Because the 28 people that died of an illegal abortion in 1972, are that important. And no one else is. But those 28 are. After it already happened, ex post facto, those are the most important. And if we would have had a law in the books, those 28 kids would have lived a normal, healthy, happy life inside the home of a mother who mutilated herself so bad that she finally started to mutilate her children too. That your thinking is that we need to preserve that child's life and that woman's, we need to stop her from mutilating herself because those things will make our country stronger. And that is fucking bullshit. That will make us worse. It will make us worse. And these are hard decisions to learn because for the very first time, you no longer get to stare into the mouth of government and say, why you no work? Why you no work? Me vote harder this time. Me fix problems of government by voting more. New law every 3 days not enough. We need new law every 3 hours. And only then, if we keep adding every 3 hours a new law, will we become moral again. And that is what you're clinging to by insisting there be a law in the land that either tells someone how to mutilate themselves or how not to mutilate themselves. And the normalcy of it all will take place within a day when you're born, when the nurse takes your baby away and says, well, we're going to circumcise him, we're going to stick some needles in him. That's what we're going to do. And if you do that, then all the circumcisions and all the needles that were stuck in you are suddenly going to be okay because you've epigenetically passed that self-mutilation onto your kids now. And you have the right to do that. That's what's so fucked, right? You have the right to do that. Do you know why you have the right to do that? Because that's how powerful you are. And if you don't want that power, guess what? You got it anyway. So you're going to give that same power that you don't want to the government. And then you're going to bitch about it. You're going to bitch about it. You're going to moan about it. You're going to vote harder. When the entire time you self-mutilated your own power is what you did. And then you look for the fantasy the government will give you to allow you to be lost and to insist, well, if we just vote this way, everything will be better. You mutilated yourself by giving government that power. And our great-great-grandparents, the Watikans, mutilated ourselves in the Civil War by making us all tax slaves. Every one of them paid. Every one of them said, okay. Every one of them passed the mutilation onto their children. And the only way out of this is through witness. It's not through the cessation of mutilation. No. It's not going to do it. It's through the witness of self-mutilation. That's how we're going to do it. Which means if we didn't have laws justifying the mutilation, we could finally judge ourselves. We could finally hold ourselves accountable. We could finally compete for the fashion to where someone's going to tell us what we did was great. I'm so proud of you. You're such a woman. Way to have an abortion. Or, I'm so proud of you. You had such a shitty life and you wanted to have an abortion, but we talked you out of it. And now I'm going to leave because the moral recipe that you've given me here is done. So I can go away now. And you may mutilate your child afterwards. You just can't do it inside Planned Parenthood. That's all. But you could throw them in a shipping container. No problem. You can shove pieces of metal in them. You can lodge shrapnel inside your child. You can mutilate his genitals. But you can't do it inside Planned Parenthood. You can't. That's wrong. And the hypocrisy is so disgusting that the moment we hold each other to our true powers, the moment that we mutilate ourselves in front of each other and suddenly feel bad. Why do we feel bad? Because someone is looking at us saying, "You are disrespecting the shit out of me right now by mutilating yourself in my presence. This is not comfortable for me." And we can only do that when we overcome this politeness bullshit and we get back into a real life witness ceremony, which really would destroy the entire purpose as to why we're grasping at the straws of government. Truly, we're grasping at government because we insist on being polite with each other. And that you were watching a young girl walk down the street with MTV, with whatever the current MTV is, sorry, but whatever the current TikTok culture is, telling them how awesome and how cool and how hip they are by having an abortion. And everyone else isn't saying anything because we're taught we have to be polite. So we don't say anything. So now this young, budding mother-to-be is watching an entire culture that's purposely politely silent to her and will not speak out to her by saying, "I think you're mutilating yourself and it's horrible." And while she's having that silence from the moral sounding board of the projection of her culture, that government media, I should say, is constantly bombarding her with what a fucking hero she'll be if she goes carves worthless into her womb and empties it from any living life form that might be there. And the true hypocrisy of all this is that government is allowed to kill every day. And that the same people that are arguing that abortion is wrong are insisting that capital punishment is right. And they insist, well, it's because they did something wrong. But the definition in our world of what is done wrong is not what's wrong. That's not. The definition of what we call wrong is a bunch of self-mutilators who've normalized themselves in government, meeting inside of a building and having a majority of them think that you are guilty. That's what we call wrong. That's what we call wrong. And half of us don't even go to jury duty because we think it sucks. So we're not even getting that. We're not even coming close to that. But we've systemically decided that the majority rule gets to decide what's right and wrong. Therefore, they get to decide who can be aborted and who cannot. Yeah, but James, they're a criminal. You don't fucking know that. You don't. A fourth of the people on death row that were exonerated from DNA evidence made a false confession. So you cannot say, well, those were bad people. No, they're not. Those are people that the system of self-mutilators has sat down and decided you're a bad person. And most of those, over half the people in prison right now are for victimless crimes, which means we're incarcerating people for mutilating themselves, which means we're taking their power away, which means we are using free slave labor by criminalizing self-mutilation. And it's wrong. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. And yes, is it uncomfortable to watch someone mutilate themselves in your presence? Of course it is. And hopefully it will be uncomfortable enough to where you will say something. Is your job to stop someone else? No, because you believe in their sovereignty. Your job is to make your environment expensive, to do things that disassociate, and your job is to make things profitable for things that associate. And that you get to dictate how expensive your environment will be based on what you say and what you do. That's your sovereignty too. So now both of you have sovereignty. One person has the sovereignty to mutilate themselves. Another person has the sovereignty to say, hey, you are mutilating yourself. Just an FYI. And that's all it fucking takes. That's all it takes. That it requires nothing else than that to quote, quote, fix society. And keep in mind, I say quotes because society is not broken, because this is how we want it to work. Because we want to have on top of our flag the worst possible horrible way that someone could ever treat each other, and then we can stand under that and do whatever the fuck we want to do to ourselves and each other, as long as it's not as high as that flag. And that's the technology of morality. That's this technology of mutilating our own sovereignty and getting it back in this gray, disgusting paste that just runs down our chin. You are responsible not just for you, but your entire genetic line. And when you have enough calories to see that, having that kind of responsibility makes you stronger. It makes you more vigilant. A friend comes over to my house. My aunt came over this weekend. I cleaned the fuck out of this place Sunday. Why? Because another witness was coming into my house. What does that mean? I don't have full power in my own witness. That for me to think that I should have a clean home, I need someone else to be here so I can make it clean for them. It's the same kind of moral degradation as me telling you abortion is wrong or abortion is right. Abortion is neither of those things. Self-mutilation is built into the vitriol of the world. If you really want to help someone that you see self-mutilating, the best thing you could do is to witness that. And choose your witness. Choose who you're going to witness with you. Choose who you're going to have in your life, because those witnesses are going to drain the fuck out of you. They're going to epigenetically change you too. So you have to decide. You have to decide. Abortion comes with flowers. And every abortion that doesn't come with flowers is an abortion that didn't happen because society's pretending that it didn't occur. And as long as we have that, we have the perfect excuse to completely drain our sovereignty by insisting, well, the government's in charge of my health care. The government's in charge of my abortion rights. The government's in charge of every moral decision I may have to make or I may not have to make. It's all up to them. And that is called cucking for the system, isn't it? Today is AMA Day. Oh, before I end, I just want to... Angela sent this meme, and it just really hits home. He-Man, if you support government, you're neither pro-life nor pro-choice. And it's true. It's true. You can't be either if you support government. Because if you support government, all you really do is support that there's only one living creature that gets to have sovereignty, and it's the government. Today's AMA Day. I don't even know if there is even time, or I have no idea how long the show has been running with everything that's happened. But with AMA, even with such a topic as uncomfortable as this, if there's issues and there's problems like that, I definitely want to help you read those, to help you see those and say what you want. I do want, at least real briefly, I want to tell you that I got a cool letter from my friend Trey. It was actually a message. And basically, I want to touch on this because he says, James, is it normal to feel like people don't understand me? But not because they don't understand me, but more because they don't understand themselves. I feel like I look deeper into people's actions and behaviors, deeper than they've probably looked into themselves. And so I act accordingly to what I find, but they haven't done that work on themselves, so they don't understand what I see in them. And my response to that is, first of all, great fucking question. And my response to that is welcome to shamanhood. And that this shamanhood is going to require you to step over the canal of schizophrenia to get to the other side. I really mean that. When you become a shaman, you notice, the first thing you notice is that, holy shit, I'm talking to this person, Bob, and Bob isn't even here. Bob doesn't even know what he thinks. That Bob is disagreeing with his own chemicals right now. And the moment you have that, you're going to have all this doubt flood in. They're going to be like, how dare you try and insist you know Bob? And if you tell Bob that, Bob's going to hit you with a ton of bricks. And he's going to say, how dare you think you know me? No one here knows me more than I know me. And that's a valid defense. Goes a long way, which is why you, the shaman, are not actually here to share with Bob that you see him more than he does. In fact, you'll stop saying that because you realize that never works. You start to understand that the only way you're going to be able to see Bob is one-sided. You alone will see Bob. Even when Bob's in the room, you will see him deeper than he will. And that most of your life is going to be with people like that. That's what being a shaman means. Why do you think shamans spend so much time alone? It's because it's the only safe, calm place they can be. And the rest of your life, think of PJR, the rest of your life will be this shaman. It's not going away. You can't take a red pill and forget about it. It's just how it goes. Now, a young budding shaman is going to have a lot of vitriol as he tries to determine whether or not he was actually seeing something correctly or if he's projecting on himself, because you're watching everyone else using their own projections chemically, and you're a human too. So absolutely you'll be doing this to yourself, and the shaman's journey is learning how to refine and clean his signal, his sonar signal, in the face of lies. Because everyone will lie to the shaman. Even if someone comes to the shaman and says, "Shaman, I want your help, please, please, please," it still will lie to you. And you as a shaman will be having conversations with people that you know are lying to you, and you will still have these conversations because you've reached this other level. This other level is what I'm talking about when I say prana economy. I don't mean that word lightly. That you will notice that on an intellectual level, you have two people talking about abortion, but on the prana economy underneath, you have something much deeper going on. You have a disassociation with sovereignty. You have a shame quotient where you're trying to find something in the world that's worse than what you've done so you can hold it up as a sort of grand measure. It's the grand balancing scales, the Libra of it all. And that you're having these conversations with these people, but there's nothing you can say or do that will reach them. So I will not be at Flattoberfest, by the way. This happened with Karen. It happened with Karen at Flattoberfest. She calls to tell me I was going to invite you to Flattoberfest this time, but I can't because you said that you felt slighted because I didn't invite you the last 2 or 3 times. And you're having these conversations with people that even if you tell them what you see and what you sense, it means shit. It means very little because they are not in charge or in touch with their prana economy. They're living in this hypothetical world. It's the neocortex's candy land. It's a wonderful playland up here where the moral decision is pro-choice or the moral decision is pro-life. And if government would still be government, but just either get a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, all this shit will be perfect. Where people are clinging to the superficiality because they cannot handle the heat when you go downstairs where it's not polite. And you enter into this cauldron with people and you're watching their rage in front of them and they don't even know it's there. When you start to see all of these pockets in their energy field, you start to go loco, shaman. You start to go crazy, and the reason why you're going crazy is because you're finally uncoupling all the tentacles of government telling you what's right, of the populace, of the majority. Keep in mind, when I say government, I mean con of census. The consensus is telling you what's right. And you have no choice but to remove every one of those tentacles. And when you do, every time you will see, how dare I think that I know this person more than the others? And Karen will say, how dare you fucking psychoanalyze me, you sick fuck? And I'm just like, yeah, this is what it's like. You know why no one wants to be a shaman? Because of this. Because not only do you see things, it doesn't matter how clearly you say it. It doesn't matter how many books you write. It doesn't matter how many live streams you make. It will not penetrate that prana economy if someone has mutilated their connection to their limbic system. And how do they do that? By locking themselves in their neocortex, which is already a half a second behind from their limbic system anyway. So they're not even living in reality. They're living a half second behind reality when you're in your neocortex. And the sheer terror of going into their engine room and seeing the true prana economy of how they behave and where their actions are and where their motivations are is so terrifying that they will never open those doors again. Yes, Debbie, you will never, the shaman will never, ever, ever be popular. Never. Not once. The only exception would be if this world turned into some Lemurian Atlantis where all of us have figured out a way that our pores of our skin glow and that our houses are run simply by the occupancy's vibrance. That being inside your house makes the whole house glow. And why would it glow? Because you are a shimmering, shining pillar of light. Why? Because of your authenticity and your claiming of sovereignty is so strong. Only then, but guess what? Everyone's a shaman then. So the word shaman would disappear because everyone would be that. So entering into this requires a lot of pain, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of false sonar. When you start this and you begin to see and you're having these confrontations with people when you didn't know it was going to be a confrontation, you are constantly going to be rechecking your sonar and keep rechecking it. Keep rechecking it. Keep insisting it's wrong. And that is a form of self-mutilation. The shaman mutilates himself by insisting that his sonar is wrong. And why does he do that? So he can finally witness how wrong it was to mutilate himself when someone's behavior showcases itself and reaffirms what you saw the entire time. This is how the shaman lives and breathes. And even in the flat earth fucking community, you will still be ostracized if you start to look below this surface. That's why we're here. It's why we're here. You are here to mutilate yourself and your children and to feel horrible about it and to repair. That's why you're here. And if we take away the ability to mutilate ourselves and to mutilate our children, we will never, ever be able to learn the lesson of repair. And we will never, ever, ever, ever learn the lesson of what sovereignty truly means. You understand? So if you're going to walk away from this stream and think that I'm pro-life or pro-choice, you've missed it. You've missed the entire point. And I don't blame you. It's okay. It's what being a shaman is like. It's how it goes. It's why I'm on my 7th shutdown this year. It's why even inside the alternative community, I'm not acceptable. When you breach through the placenta of politeness, life is there. It is there. And you interact with it in the most profound ways possible. And you step into this light. And you will not need this world anymore to tell you what's moral, to tell you how you mutilated yourself. None of those. You will know these things yourself. So practice. Practice your shamanhood. Find the prana economy in the room and play with it. Your job is not to remove it. Your job is not to restore the connection between the neocortex and the prana economy. Your job is to have fun because that person is lying to themselves. And you cannot have a deep, meaningful relationship with someone that's lying to themselves. All you can do is be polite or not be polite, right? You get to either make their behavior expensive or make it affordable. It's up to you, right? Now, do you send someone who just got an abortion? Do you send them a gold star and say, way to fucking go, way to exercise your rights? Or do you send them flowers and say, holy shit, look at what you just did. You just mutilated yourself. Are you okay? Thinking about you. Thinking about you. I guarantee you, if in 1 year every single person that got an abortion was to get flowers, this issue would be a lot further along. And let me be clear, further along. I don't think we're not supposed to have pain here. I think this world is built for pain because it's one of the most powerful alchemical tools we have. A lot more effective than pleasure. Because you can pet someone. Hey, don't get an abortion. It's okay. Hey, like yourself. Hey, it's okay. Like yourself. Come on. That doesn't work. No. You need a fucking bronze Moloch. And the invitation. Hey, you want to stick your kids in here? This is the only fucking way. Do you know how I know? Because that's what's happening in the world. Because that's what we have. And this is the garden, baby. It's Dojo Earth. And every single one of these processes is absolutely crucial to you growing into this role of shaman and moving even on past it. Even on past that. And that shaman role is actually not your way of seeing other people. It's your way of seeing yourself. Really what you're seeing in others that's harder to accept is just saying things about yourself. This is very, very important work to have these fractal reflections all around us. These faceted fractal reflections like a chandelier, right? That you're trying to figure out which shimmer came from which source, and the answer is both. The answer is every source simultaneously. It's just so complicated. It's hard for us to wrap our fingers around it and say this is what's going on. And that's the shaman's role. And it's never going to be, oh, I'm just right, or oh, I'm just wrong. It's going to be a constant. Was my sonar right there? Why don't I feel that? Why do I feel bad? If my sonar is right, why do I feel bad? And sometimes you feel bad because your sonar is right, right? This is the beauty of it. And this is why so many people insist, government, please tell me what's right and wrong. Because you have to do this for yourself, excuse me. You have to. No one's going to come fix your sound equipment. No one's going to come fix your mute button. You got to do that yourself. Bible says men should not jack off or spill their seeds. Please address that. I think that the reason why the Bible says that men should not do that is so that it adds to the vitriolic shame of doing that. And it's weird because half the people are like, oh, if you ever have sex, it drains your life force. But then, like, most professional boxers get laid before a match. Did you know that? Most professional boxers feel that it gives them vitality, which tells me that it's not actually ejaculation that causes you to lose energy. It's the shape of your posture and association while you're doing that, right? What is your state of mind when you're doing that? Where are you when you're doing that? What are you doing when you're doing that? That would be the deeper determination of what it is. And so I think that the Bible is important because it's giving us a sounding board of things that are the culture itself can kind of adopt a sort of congruence. And it'll obviously apply this polite sheen over everything, which it does. But there's still this underlying religio, this unwritten law, that still gives us our textures of shame in the world. That these are the thorns that are very important. Very important. The rose gets its color from the thorn. That soft, silky red comes from years and years and years of epigenetically causing someone to bleed. It's vital that you bleed here. It is vital that you mutilate here. It is vital that you be mutilated here. It's the only way you learn. Had a glass accident. The stitches are in a huge J. Going to be reading your books. Yeah, ouch, Tracy. That even pain that you inflict on yourself puts you in your body because you notice I wasn't fully witnessing my hand as I cut it with the saw. Right? And how you treat your body when you cut it. Just the other day, it's not that bad, but just the other day I put an impact driver through my finger. Right there. Not that bad. And the moment that impact driver, it has that, it really spins fast. The moment that went in and turned my skin, my first reaction was fuck. My second reaction was I covered it up and I said shit, 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 shit. And then I stopped myself. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was just like, don't say shit. Don't cover it up. And I pulled the Band-Aid off and I looked at, it was a paper towel. And I pulled the paper towel off and I looked at the blood. And I was like, wow, buddy. You're hurt. It's okay. We're hurt. I went from you're hurt because why did I say you're hurt to my finger? Because I was disassociated. Why was I disassociated? Because the pain snapped me out of my body. That's why I covered it up. I covered it up because I didn't want to see the wound. That's why you cover it. In fact, when someone puts a Band-Aid on your cut, they're doing that so they don't have to see your wound. So they don't have to associate with that. And if you want to heal fast, the best way to do that is to not just cover it up, but to stare at it and say, holy shit, that hurts. Wow, look how much we hurt ourselves. Not, look how much I hurt you, buddy. You'll do that. You'll talk to your finger as if it's a third person until you associate in your body. The moment you associate in your body, you will start saying, oh, look what we did. Look what we did. I'm so sorry, finger. And I spent time with my finger. And I was like, wow, that really hurts. And before I covered it up, I told it, I was like, look, I'm going to put this over here because I want the bleeding to stop. And I see you and I know you hurt and I'm not trying to hide you. I just simply want to apply compression so the bleeding will stop. This is what happened. I mutilated myself and I associated through the pain. The pain brought me into my body, not the other way around. Very, very important. Very important to think about that the next time you stub your toe, the shaman catches himself disassociated. That's very natural. You will catch yourself disassociated, and the shaman instantly corrects. The shaman realizes, before I can stop bleeding, I have to be back in my body first. It has to be that way first. And so you'll know. What taught you that? The lesson of the blood. That's what taught you. It wasn't government coming in going, you can't use that impact driver. It could cause injury. That's not what taught you. No. You doing that to yourself. And you know what else? If government would have come and stuck an impact driver in my finger, I would not have learned that lesson, because I would have been a victim, which is part of why the Bible is so brilliant in the way that it does these things. All of this world requires your consent, not because the Luciferian overlords require consent so they can secretly please God even though they hate God, which is like the most asinine, retarded thing I've ever fucking heard, that it's like some karmic loophole. When the truth of the matter is that all this world has consent, because if injury happened to you and you did not give consent, you are an instant victim, and you're authentically a victim, which is why you have to do this shit to yourself. Which is why they make you pay taxes, because they want you to consent to all the laws that are doing this stuff. Or they try and make you pay taxes, I should say. Because they want your consent. Yes, lean into the pain, Elijah. Associate with the pain. Become the person that is injured. Become the finger that has been cut. Become that, and you will notice a dramatic difference in how long it takes to heal. Dramatic. The reason why hospitals are so shitty at what they do is because a hospital will remove your sovereignty, step one. That's why they put the paper gown on you. They remove your clothes, your identity, your driver's license, your shoes, your keys, your belt. They take all that away. Because you are not a person right now. You are a patient. A patient is different. And a patient will not associate because the patient thinks the hospital is associating with the pain. In fact, you will get in the way if you try and associate, which is why most of the time there's anesthesia in that building. This is what it's like to be a shaman. You fall from a fucking deck and your first instinct is not to call an ambulance. Your first instinct is to try and associate. To keep yourself in your body no matter how much it hurts. That's hard. It's hard. And it's only hard because there's 250 million people around you that are insisting that's the wrong thing to do. Just like things become normalized through frequency, so do they become hard through infrequency. It's the same magic. It's the power of other people's witness, just like my aunt coming over Sunday made me finally sweep the bathroom floor. I hadn't swept that bathroom floor in I can't tell you how long. It was disgusting. And so many times I would see it, and I'd be like, wow, I should really sweep that floor as I'm walking by. Never would. It took the witness of another. Why? Because I'm still in training. I'm a shaman in training. And until all those things are done on my own, for my own behalf, for my own witness, when my own witness is enough, only then will I be ready to leave this garden and move on to something else. Bite the middle finger, eat the pain. Sounds like that warlock's magic. I think maybe you're corrupted with that, Pinker. I think that you watching that corrupted you. It's like 2 girls, 1 cup. And it's like you have to clean that out of your system. Because actually that quote, what she says is for you to cause the damage and then lick the pain. It's a different kind of magic, isn't it? Anyway, just something to think about. When you're a shaman, you're going to look at all these prana economies differently, including Abranovich or whatever the fuck her name is. Every single one of these things will become different. Because you're going to start to look at, I don't care what the neocortex is saying. I want to see something else. Pinker says he's no joking. I'm not sure what that means, but it's okay. You're going to need to reevaluate the world. Every part, including the ones that didn't feel good. James, is there a line drawn between disassociated self and the blurring between pain and pleasure like Pinhead? Wow, what a good question. Keep in mind when you disassociate, this is why I say pain is such a great question, Mimetic. Thank you. This is why I say pain is so healing, because when you disassociate so much, the pain feels good. And that pain feels good because it's medicine. Why? Because it's bringing you back into your body. And most of us are disassociated, so we personally like the slavery. We like the pain of slavery because it puts us back into our body, even if we don't want to be there. It's the closest thing we can come to being healthy. I went somewhere for pink handcuffs. They treated you like a patient and criminal, most of all like customer expected to pay. Yep, insanity is contagious. Yes, it is serious. Buffer here too. So yeah, this is why people cut themselves. When someone cuts themselves and comes to me and says, James, I cut myself, two different things are happening. First of all, they're having a association ceremony with their body. Isn't this fucked? But I'm telling you, it was a constructive act. Isn't that fucked? This is why I'm saying two things happen. When someone comes to me for a consult and they've been cutting themselves, the very first thing that they're doing, that I see them doing, is they're trying to get back in their body. The second thing they're doing is trying to warp my attention for them. Because someone who truly mutilates themselves would not tell anyone. I'm just talking about the true act of self-mutilation would not involve sharing this with anyone. It wouldn't. The fact you're sharing it with it, you're sharing this with someone, is actually proof of life. Why? Because you're requesting witness. You want someone to witness your pain. You're hoping to jack off on the torque of that, like to maybe not jack off, but I mean like to jump off the torque, like to jumpstart your engines off the torque of my witness to you mutilating yourself. And you utilize it like a stair step, so to speak. Someone who's truly self-mutilating themselves, like truly, would not tell anyone. Do you understand? That the shame would feel so good that they would rinse deeper into that shame. If they were truly there for self-mutilation, that they would find that shame beautiful. And that they would hide that secret from themselves for longer and longer and longer and longer. This is why a lot of alcoholics don't talk about it. In order for you to spring off the bottom of the lake, right, you got to sink all the way down. And you can't just sink down where your toes touch. You have to bend your knees. And when your knees are bent, you can jump off the bottom of that lake and propel yourself back up. A lot of these rituals, especially public rituals of pain, are doing just that. They're trying to hijack the witness of others to see if, and there's nothing wrong with that. We do this to everyone. We do this to each other. This is what having a family means. Is, hey family, I mutilated myself today, and hey, don't do that. You shouldn't mutilate yourself. Or, sadly, even sicker, hey family, I mutilated myself. Good, I mutilated myself too. So did I. That's most American families are doing that. And it starts with circumcision. And it just slow rolls into a snowball. Why? Because epigenetically, we've been passed a shitload of debt. And that debt is built into our genes. And for us to find ourselves, we have to pay that debt too. But this isn't all bad news, because I don't think you understand how powerful it is to relinquish your grandfather's debt. And you feel that in your body. You may not notice it, but you feel it. You feel that triumph. You win the entire family line. And winning 4 generations is just as powerful as losing 4 generations. And if you truly respected everyone's sovereignty, you would want someone to have the right to be able to epigenetically reaffirm the family and heal 4 generations of trauma in one life. You would want that. And if you want that, it means you also want the same sovereign individual to be able to epigenetically imprison its own family line into 4 generations too. You would want the same. If you don't want it, it's because you want government, because you're afraid of your own power and you'd rather have government have it. And you were bad for doing that. Don't do that. Keep doing it. I know everyone else is doing it, but I'm trying to make it as expensive as possible for you to do that. The mind control will continue until sovereignty improves. All right. Oh man, thank you for talking about this. 19 years. And yes, this makes sense. Good, Tracy. They secretly want to be caught. Of course they do. Most people do. Most everyone does. Why? Because if you're caught, it means someone was looking. Someone was witnessing you more than you were. Really good observation. Ryan, yes. All right, guys. I'm going to close it out. Thank you for dealing with me in the beginning with my lovely, lovely issues. We are having dojo tonight at 7 o'clock if you want to come. We can talk about all kinds of things if you want. And I'll see you again Friday. Yeah. Take care, guys. Have a great day. And we'll see you next time.